All right, so let's get right into it. When I say the word economics, what pops into your head? My guess is charts, lots of numbers, maybe some confusing graphs. But what if I told you that economics is actually a story? And not just any story. It's this epic tale about a huge war of ideas, a battle that literally shapes every single thing in your life, from what your coffee costs to the job you might have.
Everything, and I mean everything, comes down to this one single question. It seems simple, but it's actually kind of impossible. How do you split up a finite amount of stuff among people who will always want more? This is the problem of scarcity, and the fight over how to solve it is what economics is all about.
And let's be super clear, this is not some dry academic debate. The different answers to this question have built up massive empires. They've started bloody revolutions, and those same ideas are still duking it out for control of our world right now. So let's start at the beginning of the story.
Our first chapter takes us way back to a time of huge sailing ships and brand new empires. This is where the first really big economic theory came from. It was called mercantilism, and its whole logic was, well, it was simple and it was pretty brutal.
The core idea here was that all the wealth in the world was like a fixed pie. There's only so much to go around. So for my country to get a bigger slice, your country had to get a smaller one. The name of the game was to hoard as much gold as you could. How? By selling as much stuff as possible to other countries and buying as little as possible from them. This zero-sum thinking, this I win, you lose mentality, it just led to constant trade wars, colonization, and really heavy government control over everything. Then, in 1776, everything changed. A quiet Scottish philosopher named Adam Smith dropped a book that was basically an intellectual bombshell. It completely shattered that old mercantilist way of thinking. And honestly, this moment is what we now consider the birth of modern economics. Smith's idea was totally revolutionary. He said, look, society doesn't run on people being nice to each other. It runs on self-interest. The butcher isn't selling you meat because he's a great guy. He's doing it to make a living for his own family. And Smith said, not only is that okay, it's actually the engine that makes everything work. Smith argued that when millions of us are out there just pursuing our own interests, it's like an invisible hand guides the whole market to produce the right stuff at the right prices for everybody. He completely flipped the old idea on its head. Wealth isn't some fixed pie we have to fight over. No, we can all work together in our own self-interest to bake a much, much bigger pie for everyone. So what's the best thing a government could do? Just get out of the way. Now, Smith's ideas, they worked. They unleashed the Industrial Revolution, creating more wealth than the world had ever seen. But it had a really dark side. Think horrific working conditions, child labor, and massive, massive inequality. And this environment gave rise to capitalism's most famous and most powerful critic. Karl Marx looked at Adam Smith's free market and saw something totally different. He didn't see harmony. He saw a battlefield. For Marx, all of human history was just one long story of class struggle. And in capitalism, that war was between the factory owners, the bourgeoisie, and the workers they were exploiting, the proletariat. He was convinced the whole system was rigged, unstable, and would eventually just collapse in a violent revolution.
And you know what? For a while there, it looked like Marx might be right. The system that Adam Smith had championed, it seemed to just completely break. The Great Depression hit, unemployment went through the roof, and that self-correcting market, it showed zero signs of correcting itself. It felt like it had just died. This massive crisis created a huge intellectual vacuum, and it set the stage for the defining economic showdown of the 20th century. Out of the wreckage of the Great Depression, a brilliant British economist named John Maynard Keynes stepped onto the scene. Keynes had a totally different take. He said that in a crisis, fear just takes over. People get scared, so they stop spending. Then businesses fail, more people lose jobs, and the whole thing becomes a terrifying downward spiral. His solution was radical for the time. The government has to step in. It has to become the spender of last resort, pouring money, even money it doesn't have, into big projects to create jobs and get confidence back up.
And for decades, Keynes's ideas pretty much ruled. They led to this huge post-war economic boom. But then, in the 1970s, a new monster showed up, something the Keynesian model just could not explain: stagflation. You had high unemployment and high inflation happening at the exact same time. It wasn't supposed to be possible.
This new crisis opened the door for a powerful counterattack, led by an American economist named Milton Friedman. He looked at stagflation and came to the exact opposite conclusion as Keynes. He basically declared that government wasn't the solution at all. Government was the problem.
So now you have two completely opposite prescriptions for the exact same disease. Keynes's playbook said the government needs to spend more to fix things. Friedman said no, you have to spend less, cut regulations, and get government out of the economy. This huge disagreement, which was championed by leaders like Ronald Reagan and Margaret Thatcher, would basically dominate global politics for the next 40 years.
And that brings us right up to today, where this giant pendulum just keeps swinging back and forth. Think about it. After the 2008 financial crisis, and then again during the global pandemic, what did governments do? They rushed right back to Keynesian ideas, stimulus checks, massive spending programs, all to stop a total collapse. This constant back and forth just proves that this great debate is far, far from over.
When you step back and look at it, this whole story is just a series of brilliant minds all grappling with the same huge fundamental questions. From a king hoarding gold to Adam Smith's invisible hand, all the way to Friedman wanting to cut red tape, each one offered a powerful but maybe incomplete answer for how we should all live together.
And that brings us right back to where we started, staring at that same impossible question. Economics isn't some settled science with a neat and tidy answer. It's a living, breathing, and totally never-ending debate about the best way for all of us to build a society. So, what do you think comes next?